Morning, Kal Kadosh, Masechet Yoma Daf Nun Daled Amud Aleph, 54a1. The Gemara says, we just finished by saying that how do we know that it went into Galut? We was talking about by the Aron. So it said the reason why we said that it went into Galut was because it says that Ishonah Damran Vayviya Bavela Mklechem Dat Vet Hashem. Shniya, how do we know? But it says Vayitzeh Mi Bat Zion. It came out of Bat Zion, Kol Hadara, all the splendor.
That's for them to do.
No, sorry.
I was sitting there.
So what does it mean? Kol hadara, all the splendor. My kol hadara, hadra, right? Everything which was hidden in the rooms. So you don't say hadra, it's hadra. Yeah, chet, right? A cheder. So right, chet and hey, interchangeable. Okay. Now it says ata mayata omer, right? So he comes and he says, what are you going to say then? Amar lo says Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. I argue on Rabbi Eliezer. Shani Omer, but I'm going to say Aron bin Komon Nignaz. That Aron was placed into Genizah in the same place, which means it was put in Genizah in the exact same place where it was. Shneimar, but it says in a pasuk Vayarichu Abadim. What does that mean? Vayarichu Habadim, right? So Amar le Rabba Leula May Mashma. So what does that mean? Just because it says that the Badim became longer, or what does that mean? That all of a sudden, like it was outside, like towards the outside. Now it became absorbed in its place. So he answers, he says, no. From the fact that it says it's going to be there until this day, that means that it was buried in its place and it's going to be there until today. Okay? Yeah, so now he says, and any time that it's written until this day, leolamu, does it mean for generations? Forever, for eternity? The active, it says in a pasuk, there it's written that the Yevusi are going to be living in Yerushalayim, right, with Bnei Binyamin until this day. So you're going to tell me that they're there until now for eternity? The lo galu, that what? The Bnei Binyamin were not exiled bichlal until Ad Yom Hazeh. The Tanya we learned in the Braita. Rabbi Yehuda says, Hamishim u'shtayim shana lo avar ish Yehuda. There were 52 years that there was not a Jew in Yehuda. Shneimar, but it says in a pasuk, on the destruction of the mountains, right? I will start crying. And on the mishkenot, on the midbar, I'm going to make a kinah. Because there was nobody there. And you didn't even hear, even mikneh, even cattle. Not from even the birds or the animals. They all left. Yeah, nun bet. Yeah, this concept of behema, the gematria of nun bet of 52. So the numerical value of behema is nun bet 52. So for 52 years there was no animals. Tanya, we learned in the right Tanya, right? Rabbi Yosef says, there were 7 years where it was fulfilled this curse of gofrit vamelach, of sulfur and salt, was going to destroy, right, the land of Israel. Rabbi Yochanan says, what's the reasoning of Rabbi Yosef? Atia brit brit was the gzera shava of brit brit. It's written in the pasuk in Daniel, that it would strengthen the brit with the ministers for 7 years, which is one shavua. So shavua many times means 7 years, not just 7 days. And it says over there on the goyim, it says for the fact that they actually destroyed, they have forsaken the treaty of Hashem, their God. Okay? So by the way, you already have over there the Galut Bavel, you have everything there. You see it? Where on the picture on the bottom? Yeah? 70 years from the beginning of Shilton Bavel, 52 years of Shemamah, and then 70 years from the Churban Bet HaMikdash. Okay?
When they came back to build the second Bet HaMikdash, then they said it took them 18 years until they get the permission to start to build.
Exactly. Yeah.
The permission to
start the building.
To build.
You know, we complain nowadays that it takes a long time to get the permits and things like that. So they had to get a long time.
18 years until they permit them the Yavish.
Yeah.
The Yavish, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, let's go. So Amalei So he comes and Ula said to Rabbah, Hacha ketiv sham, here it's written over there. Vehatam lo ktiv sham. No, the difference between the two places is it says over there, Vayu sham ad hayom hazeh. So therefore, when it says Vayu sham ad hayom hazeh, it means le'olam, forever. But over there by Bnei Yamin, it's not written sham. It just says Vayu, right? It just says that it was ad hayom hazeh. So ad hayom hazeh does not mean forever. Meaning, if you just have the words ad hayom hazeh until this day, it doesn't mean for eternity. But if it says it's going to be there for eternity, it means for eternity. Okay? And even if it's going to be written sham, sham means for eternity. Mateway, we're going to ask now the question, umehem, and from them, these are the children of the Shvatim, min bnei Shimon, from bnei Shimon, al Chular Seid, they went to Har Seid, Anashim 500 people, Uplater Nareo, Fayuziel, bnei Yushib Rosham, Ve'ekut Sherit Pleta Lamalek, and these are the Malikim that were there. Okay, Ve'yishu Sham ad hayom hazeh, and they say they're ad hayom hazeh, and there it says Ve'yishu Sham ad hayom hazeh. Now, Sancheriv, the king of Assyria, he went up and he mixed all the different nations. And he mixed everyone around. To them, society, which means that if you see from here that he exiled them from one place to another place to another place. Yeah?
Who learned that from?
So says the Gemara, Tiyuvta. You're right. It's a refutation. It's a good refutation. Why? Because here it does say the word Sham. And we know that Sham does not mean Leolam. Yeah, because there it says Vayu Sham ad hayom hazeh, and there it does not mean forever because the Sancheriv already came and he mixed everyone around. So it's a good tiyufta. Amar of Nachman says of Nachman, Tana, we learned in the Braita, Chachamim saying, Aaron belishkat dira etzim hayaganuz. The Aaron was placing Genizah in the lishkat dir ha'etzim. Okay, which remember, right? We had the 4 different chambers inside the Azara, in the Azarat Nashim. So if you remember, there were 4 different chambers in the Azarat Nashim, and the chambers in the Azarat Nashim, they said one of them was the Lishkat of the Dira Etzim, where the wood was. So where they used to keep the wood. So that's where it was put in Genizah. Amar of Nachman bar Yitzchak, says of Nachman bar Yitzchak, Afananami Tanina, we also saw it, we also learned it in the Mishnah, Shekalim. Maaseh beKohen Echad Shem Mitasek. There was a story with the Kohen Echad that he was just stam, in the Lishkat Etzim. So all of a sudden he saw that the floor was different than the rest. So he realized that 1 second, there's something wrong here. If the floor is different, that means there's something hidden. He wanted to come and tell his friend, and he wasn't able to even finish until he passed away. That means he wanted to give over the secret and he passed away. So therefore they knew for sure that the Aron was going to be placed there. That means they knew that the Aron was there. That's why nobody was able to say exactly where or what. It wasn't able to. So my Avi, right? What was he doing? Well, what was he being osek? Amar Rabbi Chalbo mitasek bekardumo. He was playing with a kardom, with a garzen. It's like an axe. Haya. Okay, and therefore to cut. Yeah, okay, an axe in order to cut the wood, to saw the wood, a saw, if you want to say. Okay. Tana de Bishmael. Right, they taught in the academy of Ishmael. There were 2 kohanim that they were baalei mumim, that they had blemishes, that they were taking care of the tolaim and the etzim. So all of a sudden, what happened is that the kardom fell on the floor, and all of a sudden a fire came out and it consumed it. So that's how we knew he was such a holy place, because all of a sudden it consumed it. Now we have to remember there were baalei mumim because regular kohanim, they would be doing the service in the Bet HaMikdash. But since they had a Baal Mum, so they weren't able to do the service in the Bet HaMikdash, so they were in charge of the wood. So they went into they were taking the wood, and any wood that had a tolat, they weren't able to bring it to the Mizbeach. So because of that, they were checking the wood to make sure that there were no tolaim. Okay, Rabbi Yehuda comes and he asks a contradiction. It's written, right, Rashi Abadim, that you're going to see the Rashi Abadim, so you're not allowed to see the Rashi Abadim. HaKeitzad, Nirim ve'nenim. You could see it, but you can't see it, which means they were dochakim b'parochet, but right, therefore you could actually see it, but you couldn't see it, which means since they were longer, in the curtains you were able to see like an indent. So you would see it from the outside of the parochet, from the curtains, you would be able to see the sticking out of the poles, but you couldn't actually see the poles. So they were nidim ve'ena nidim. Okay? Tanya Miyachi, we also learned in the right of Yirah or Rashi Abadim. We would thought they would never move from its place. Right? What does that mean? Yachol you. So therefore, it says over here from kapechutz, which means you're allowed to actually move them right within the tabat. That means as long as it's within the rings, you can move it back and forth. You can't take it out of the rings, but you're allowed to move it from back and forth from within the rings. Okay, Yachol Yehu Bekarim Beparoch Yotzin. I would have thought to say that they're going to tear open the parochet and then it's going to take it out from the echal. Tamulomar velo yirau chutz. They can never see it. Haketzad. It's actually sticking out from the parochet. So it looks like the two forms on the chest area, right, of the breast of a woman. That means those two dots, right? So that's what it actually. So it used to stick out like from the clothing. But it says in a pasuk, "Seror amor dodli li ben shadayalin," right? That this is basically ahuvi. Right, that this is like for Hakadosh Baruch Hu, he likes it like a min bosim, like a type of a besamim, right? Just like the ben Shnei b'nei Aaron, that the Shekhinah was there. Okay, so that's why they were compared, right, to this part of the woman's body. Amar Rav Ketina, says Rav Ketina, B'shah shayu Yisrael olin l'regel, during the time that Bnei Yisrael were going and doing aliyah l'regel, megalin lahem et haparochet umanin lahem et hakruvim shayu meonim ze bezeh. So they used to be megalel the parochet, they used to open up the parochet, umarin lahem et hakruvim, they used to show them the kruvim, that the kruvim were actually hugging each other. Ve'omrim lahem, they used to tell them, Reu chibatchem lifnei makom ki chibat zachar v'nekeva. Look how precious you guys are, that it's like the chiba, right, of a male and a female. And that's why they're hugging each other. Okay, which is actually something incredible, which means that they actually opened up the Kodesh HaKodashim. Usually we always thought the Kodesh HaKodashim was always, usually they would, even when they would fix the Kodesh HaKodashim, they would have to put curtains around the entire inside, and then they would lower them down in like these little tiny like cubicles, and then they used to fix whatever they need to, but they weren't able to see the rest of the Kodesh HaKodashim. The entire Kodesh HaKodashim was like covered. You understand? So it was done like in a, but here they would actually show them. So Mativ Rav Chasta comes and he asks the following question: right? It says, right, that they weren't able to come, and they weren't able. The Bnei Kehat were not able to, when they were going to be covering the Kohanim, they weren't able to see it. So therefore, how could this be exactly? How could you show the Kruvim to the Kahal? We're talking about even putting the Kelim inside of the Bet HaMikdash, which means that it's a sur for the Levim to look at the Aron when it's galui, right? Because that means once the Kohanim already took off the parochet, right? They're not nothing. They're not allowed to do anything. So how could it be that the Ole Regel would be able to see the Aron? So Amr Nachman says of Nachman, Mashal lekala, it's a mashal to the kala. Kozman shi bevet avia, as long as she's in her father's house, which means that she's engaged only. Tznuah mi ba'ala, so she's tznuah from her husband. Kevan shebat levet chamia, but once she comes to her father-in-law's house, which means after she's already married, right? Because remember, in the olden days, the girls would go to their father-in-laws. Okay? Right? So then enat tznuah mi ba'ala. So then she's not tznuah mi ba'ala, which means that once she's already married, so then all of a sudden now she's not going to be tznuah from her husband. Because when she's married, the olden days, nowadays a woman gets married, usually the husband has to come to her, which means that she draws all the people to her, right? Meaning the men to her. The olden days opposite. When you got a daughter married, she was off. She was somewhere else. In a sense, she had to go somewhere else. It wasn't that she was coming to you. Right? You were losing the daughter. Right? You weren't gaining a son-in-law. You understand? They was taking away.
One big house.
Exactly, but it was always by the father, which means that the father had all his male children. Everything was always, right? And the girls went somewhere else. Right? Nowadays, usually it's the opposite. So it says over here, so the same thing with to do Bnei Yisrael. To do with Bnei Yisrael, that, right, they weren't ragil to the Shekhinah. So therefore, it was considered like an audacity if they would come and they would see the Aron. That was during the time of the Bet HaMikdash. That was during the time of the Mishkan, right, and the Minbar. But once it was already built, the Bet HaMikdash, and now the Shekhinah was always by us. So now Ki'ilu, this is like so now it's not Sanua anymore because it's like Bet Chamia. It's like that we're already married for a long time. So therefore that's it. Now there's no problem. So Mativ Rav Chama bar Rav Katina. Rav Chama bar Katina comes, Chana bar Katina, and he asks the following question from the Mishan Shekalim. So if you see from here, right, the 1 second, why is it then, right, that you can't look? Here they were only going to find out where was it put in Geniza, and the guy dropped dead on the spot. So what's the problem then? Samale nidgarsha kamarta. She got divorced. Nidgarsha chazru lechibata rishona. Meaning the fact that HaKadosh Baruch Hu had to destroy the Bet HaMikdash, so it was like we would divorce from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Once we got divorced from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, so then it goes back to the original status quo that we're not anymore like a husband and wife. So we can't see the Aron anymore. When we were married to him, Kilu, Kaviyachol, so then we're together with him in harmony. So then, yes, we could see the Aron and nothing will happen. But once we got divorced because Kilu, we sinned, and therefore he had to get us out, and therefore they had to put in Geniza, that's it. Then it's already a different world. Yes. Okay? So, what are we dealing with? If you're going to tell me in the Mikdash Rishon, there was no parochet in the Mikdash Rishon. Remember, in the first Bet HaMikdash, it was a wall. It was a mataklim, but it wasn't a parochet. So if it's going to be the Mikdash Sheni, there were kruvim. There were no kruvim. In the second Bet HaMikdash, there was no Aron. So if in the second Bet HaMikdash, what kruvim? What poles? There was nothing there.
There was no kruvim in Bet HaMikdash.
Bet HaMikdash Rishon, yes, not in the Sheni. In the Sheni, there was no Aron. The Aron was placed in Genizah. Yeah, there was a stone, right? But it was placed in Genizah. It was the Efen Shetiyah.
The only thing we Jewish this kruvim only the mood the Mahad Shani.
Yeah.
Same thing, but something like this, nothing else besides those
kruvim. No.
Was nothing in Jewish life. Said Nora, but kruvim the mood.
Yeah, Shel Zachav and Nekeva. No, you're right, 100%. Yeah.
Also, we had the Beit Sheni, two parochet.
Yeah, exactly. The two parochets.
Was one.
Just one, but it wasn't a parochet. It was a wall. It wasn't a curtain. It wasn't a curtain. Right? So that's what we're asking. We're saying, Manashach, something's wrong here. If we're in the Bet HaMikdash Rishon, there was no parochet. And if it's in Bet HaMikdash Sheni, there was no kruvim. So then what's going on then? So says the Gemara, Leolam, you're right. B'Mikdash Rishon, we're talking about the first Bet HaMikdash. Umay parochet, what does it mean parochet? Parochet de Baveh, the parochet of the entrances, which means the parochet of which was on the entrance of the Ulam, in the petach of the Echal, of the antechamber, yeah? So it says, with petach bet kodesh hoshim, there were three entrances, one beside each other. So Amar B'Zera Amarav, says B'Zera in the name of Rav, Shlosha Asar parochot hayu b'mikdash. There were 13 parochets in the Bet HaMikdash. Shiva keneged Shiva she'arim. There were 7 opposite the 7 entrances. Shtayim achal lepitcho shel Echal ve'echal lepitcho shel Ulam. 2, one for the entrance of the Echal, one of the entrance of the Ulam. Shtayim b'David. 2 by the Bet HaMikdash, by the Kodesh HaKodashim, which by the Matraksim, to divide the Kodesh HaKodashim and the Echal. U'shtayim kenegdam b'Aliyah. And then there were 2 also in the Aliyah, which means the Aliyah of the Echal of the Kodesh HaKodashim, which was in the same halacha applied in the Bet HaMikdash Rishon. So there were 2 parochot in the Dvid, but it wasn't there because it was in a Matraksim, but rather it was in the entrances. Okay, so that's the first answer. So here I'm going to share the screen, and you could actually see the entrances. Here you have Shiva Keneged Shiva She'arim, right? So it says over here, Yoiv Shara Nitzot, Shara Korban, Shara Bet HaMoked. Okay, then you have Shara Mayim, Shara Bechorot, Shara Delek. Okay, then you had Shiva Keneged Shiva She'arim. This is one, Shara Nikanor. This is the petach of the Echal and petach shel Ulam, right? And that's it. Okay? These are the curtains. You see, this is a curtain right here. This is a curtain. So these are all the different curtains. Next answer. Rav Acha bar Yaakov says, Leolam, really, we're talking about B'Mikdash Sheni in the second Bet HaMikdash. Ukruvim de Tzurata, but the kruvim were actually mitzuyarim on the wall. Meaning it wasn't the kruvim of the Aron, right? Because it was in the second Bet HaMikdash. There was no kruvim, there was no Aron in the second Bet HaMikdash. The kruvim were designed on the wall. Havukaime, and they stayed there, which means that they were actually on the walls of the Bet HaMikdash. On the wall, it was engraved. That's what it sounds like. It was engraved. Yeah? Okay. Here it says it's either chakukim beluchot etz shetzipu et kotlei ha'even. So it was like engraved inside of the walls. Okay. Dichtiv, it says in a pasuk ve'kol kirot habayit mesa kala, right? Kruvim l'tmonot uv'turei tzitzim uchtiv v'tzipa zahav miyushal al michkeh uchtiv kimar ish v'liyot. So basically, there are different things about, again, talking about the kruvim. Okay. Mai kimar ish v'liyot. What does it mean? Ki ish v'liyot. Amar Rabba bar Shila, says Rabba bar Shila. Nundaled amubet 54b. So basically, a person that he's a man that he's like clinging to his wife. Okay, he's connected to his wife. Okay, so Amar Resh Lakish, says Resh Lakish, B'shah shenichnesu nochrim la'echal. When the goyim came into the echal, ra'u kruvim meurin zebazeh. They saw that the kruvim were also hugging each other, right? Which means here they took it off the wall. והוציאו לשוק, and they took it out to the shuk, ואמרו, ישראל הללו שברכתם ברכה וקללתם קללה יעסקו בדברים הללו. They didn't understand. The goyim came and they said, look, the Jews, their curse is a curse, their bracha is a bracha. And what are they doing inside of their holy of holies? You understand? You know, with a man and a woman hugging, like, you know, like, they didn't understand. They don't understand. Yeah? Miyadi zilum. So it went down the value of Bnei Yisrael. Shneimar kol mechabdei yizilua kira'or vatah. All the ones that once upon a time respected Bnei Yisrael, they became light in their eyes. They became degraded in their eyes because they saw their erva. Okay? Says, so if you remember, we said in the second Bet HaMikdash, it was like a stone that was protruding 3 fingers on top of the floor, and it was called shtiyah, right? The Even Shtiyah. Even until today, there's Even Shtiyah. Okay, Tana, we learned that from there, where the entire world was formed. So now we learned in a Mishnah, because from Tzion the entire world was created. The Tanya, we learned in a Braita, Rabbi Eliezer says, Olam emtzaito nivra. Right, the world was created from the middle. Shneimar, but it says in a pasuk, betzeket afar lamutza kul guvim yubaku. So in the day sheatzakti afar, that I went and I made the afar to make the Yisod Olam, I put everything together. It was all in one place. Yeshua says, Olam inatzadin nivra. He says, no, it was created from the sides. Shneimar ki lasheleg yomar heve haaretz geshem atar v'geshem yitrot uzo. So he says, Rabbi Yitzchak says, Even yara kadosh baruch hu bayam, umenu nishtat olam. Kadosh baruch hu threw a stone inside of the sea, and from there the entire world was created. Meaning, like the stone was that which became like land. Shneimar amad neot ba'u, o mi yara even pinatea. So it comes from an even. The even was the stone. That's what became like they formed the land. Chachamim omrim mitzion nivra. No, it was from the Tzion, from Eretz Yisrael. Shneimar mizmor la'asaf el kel Elokim Hashem. Right, and it says Mitzion Michlal Yofi. Okay, so he says Mimenu Muchlal Yofio Shalom. So from there, the entire beauty of the world was actually created. Tanya, we learned in a Braita. Rabbi Eliezer Agadol Omer. Rabbi Eliezer Agadol says, "Elle toledot Hashemayim v'aretz b'miram b'yom asot Hashem Elokim v'aretz Hashemayim toledot Shamayim mishamayim nivru." Everything that was from the heavens were created from the heavens. Toledot haaretz, everything which was created in the land, me'eretz nivru, was created in the land. Chachamim said no. Elu ve'elu mitzion nivru. Everything was created from Yerushalayim, from Eretz Yisrael. Shneimar mizmor la'asaf kel Elokim Hashem diber vayikra haaretz mizeh Hashem shomvo u'omer mitzion michlal yofi Elokim. Right, Tofia mimenu muchlal yofi shalom. So from there was created the beauty of the world. Okay, nekuda. Next, 2 dots. Natalet adam misha manesbo. So remember, the Kohen Gadol now comes and he has to take the blood from the person that was mixing the blood the entire time. We weren't allowed to let the blood stay still because if not, it congeals. So somebody had to be mixing the blood the entire time. And then he used to do a chal lemala v'shevel lamata, 1 on the top and 7 on the bottom. And he wasn't doing exactly the top of the bottom, but it has rather kimatzlif. My kimatzlif, what does it mean kimatzlif? Machve Rav Yehuda showed nun hey amud aleph kimenagdana, like a shliach betin that he's taking the ritzua and he's giving makot. Meaning the shliach betin, when he starts giving the makot, he starts from ben haktafain and he starts going downwards a little bit. So the same thing, he was going like one under another one. So it wasn't in the same place. It was one under another, one under another, one under another, right? And it was like an alachson. Right? Because remember, the shliach betin, he had to give 39 lashes by 3 sets of 13. Right, that's why there's vurachum. It's 13. It's 13 words, so that was the 3. So everything was like vehu, rachum, yechaper, avon, velo, yashit. So it's 13.
That's what we're saying.
Yeah, that's what we do. Right?
The grave.
Exactly, vurachum. Exactly, that's also we do on the grave. 100%. Okay, Bezat Hashem, we continue tomorrow.